story here. Godard is a great entrepreneur and has a great story here. One that's not as well known, but you may have seen the headlines. Company, Big Machine, recently sold for almost $500 million in the world. One of the great Chicago success stories. We had a couple of those last year. Another founder story guest, Brian Johnson from Braintree, sold to PayPal, eBay, for almost $1 million. So some of our great stories in Chicago are B2B stories. This is one of the great ones, and I'm glad to be able to, you're going to be able to hear it tonight. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, Pat, for having us.
So just for people who haven't been a customer, tell us, how would you explain to a layperson, what does Big Machines do? What problem is it solving? How is it?
And I'll start with one of my old jokes. You have to laugh. And actually, one of my now co-founders, Matt Dworniak's here with me. We've heard all these stories 100 times, so he's going to echo me. But now Big Machines, and actually, I used to get a lot of phone calls from guys selling scrap metal. Maybe you have any scrap metal products. Now it's a software company. And we also got the question a lot of years, like, why don't you change the name? But then we had a long-time sales rep, Steve Krasicki, who said, like, what I like about it, once people remember it, they remember it. Although it's kind of a weird experience. And once we hired someone, they would go home and tell their wife, I work for Big Machines. And they're like, wow.
Doesn't sound very cloud software.
Right. So that's a lot of things that it's not. But what it really was is we helped companies sell like Dell. That's kind of our inspiration. So if you've been to Dell's website, you can figure PC, you pick a hard drive, memory, storage, and then behind the scenes, there's a configuration rules engine that makes sure all the components fit together, give your pricing right, and order it seamlessly online. Big Machines really helps companies do the same thing. We're kind of online, guided selling configuration.
Yeah, we use it for our office. Terrific technology. So, talk about where the idea came from. It's not the kind of thing the average person in the audience would have just thought of walking on the street one day. So, you must have some insight into this opportunity. What's the genesis of it? Where the idea
Right. And the idea, a lot of it came from my dad. And the idea for Big Machines first emerged in 1999, which is a long time ago. But I think back then I was 27 years old and a lot more young and naive maybe. But I was out in the Silicon Valley. I wound up going to business school at Stanford, and I was involved in a couple startups there. But I'd grown up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, through high school, and I went home to see my dad and my family Thanksgiving 1999. And I was in the middle of the valley, and at the time, people were calling it the reality distortion zone. And take anything, put it in the valley, and it would be magically amazing. But I asked my dad, like, hey, how's the internet going to affect your business?
What was your dad's business?
And he was in pump manufacturing, but I was kind of very surprised. He was in Pittsburgh, far removed from all the hype. But he's like, it's not. What do you mean that, right? Everyone in the valley, everything's going to change. But he explained to me, look, I sell very configured, complex pumps. And every time somebody orders it, I need a sales engineer that helps them configure the right pump with the right motor, the right couplings, the right materials based on their application. And but then what I've seen in the valley, there were companies like Cisco. They were already selling complex networking gear, routers, and they were doing it all online with online configurators. But the way Cisco was doing it, they had about 5,000 IT people, Java programmers. My dad had a small business. He had 2 IT guys. And there was no way he was going to be able to implement what Cisco had done. So we said, hey, let's create something that even a small company like my father's can implement. And at the time, it wasn't called cloud. But we said, hey, let's put everything in the browser. And in college, I studied mechanical engineering, so we said, hey, let's make it so a mechanical engineer could do it. You don't have to be a programmer to build a system like this. And that was kind of the vision